Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for being here. My name is Milton Munoz, and I'm here to present, as Yoga mentioned, the topic of the Florida panther. So the Florida panther and the challenges to keep this endangered species moving forward. Um, this presentation study area focuses on Southwest Florida, where you can see some of the biggest cities, Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and Immokalee. Um, the Everglades National Park and Big Cypress National Preserve are essential parts of this area. They help protect a lot of the wildlife in this section of the state of Florida. The Interstate 75 and US 41, as well as State Road 29, they are the major roads that cross this part of the state. The Caloosahatchee River is a major landmark as well for the species to move across to the central part of the state. The Florida panther is an endangered species. They used to roam all over the southeast, the United States, and today is the only North American puma east of the Mississippi River. During the 1800s and 1900s, the historical range began to decrease by almost 95%. They continue to move south, and now they are down to south of the Caloosahatchee River. You can see the image on the right. That is the green part. That's the current range right now, and the tan is where they used to roam before. Estimated population is about 230 individuals, and during the 1800s and 1900s, a lot of the early settlers used to hunt them because they were seen as threats. So they began to be legalized hunting in the state of Florida in 1958. The endangered species preservation, they were put in the Endangered Species Preservation in 1966, and the Endangered Species Act in 1973. They became the state animal for the state of Florida in 1982. And the Florida Panther Genetic Restoration Program in 1995 helped revive pretty much the species that was going into extinction. They believe that 95% of the scientists believe that in the next 20 years they were going to be extinct. There was about 30 individuals in the 1990s. So the question I'm trying to answer in this this project is, can Florida panthers survive long-term under current habitat conditions, or would their survival depend entirely on reintroduction to other outside habitats? So to help me answer this question, I broke down in 4 sections the project. The introduction that I already done, the methods where I created maps for the Florida Panther telemetry, as well as for to show movement, as well as the Florida Panther mortality to see different counts over the years. I also created a Florida Panther habitat gap map and a habitat suitability model with this map as well. The results come from the methods, from the maps that were created on the methods, and the conclusion will bring my final thoughts, and and I will try to introduce the Florida Wildlife Corridor. So the Florida Panther telemetry, the research began on the Florida Panther. This research of telemetry began in 1981. The research consisted of placing tracking devices, collars around the neck of the captured panthers. These tracking devices give individual signals as a very high frequency or as GPS. The data that I collected for the map that I created in this section came from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and this data is from February 1981 to June 2020. I created 2 layers for this map. The first layer is a telemetry reading from 81 to 2020. The primary symbology was a single symbol. I used the push pin 2, the Seville orange for this. There's about 112,065 readings for this layer. The second layer is the telemetry reading. This is only from 2011 to 2020. This was extracted from the same data. but I just wanted to show telemetry readings from that particular period. The primary symbology was a heat map with 25-meter radius, multi-part color scheme, dynamic method with no weight. The heat map is a blue, dark blue for spurts, and cyan blue for dense. The telemetry map was created on the human geography base map. In this section of the Florida Panther mortality, the Florida Panther, as I mentioned before, there's an estimated population of about 230 adults. And the lowest numbers came during the 1970s when they were down to 20 individuals, mostly because of hunting and habitat fragmentation. In the 1990s, we also saw a low number of about 30, and that was done because of genetic issues. The Florida Panther Genetic Restoration Program helped restore this gene pool in 1995. And what they did is that they brought in about 8 females from Texas, pumas, mountain lions, and they reintroduced them to the gene pool to improve the gene pool, and that's when we got to see the recovery. We see now 230 adults. So 70% of our recorded panther deaths today are due to vehicular strikes, and I created 2 maps. Also from the obtain the data from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation, and this data came from February 1972 to January 2021. The first map is explaining the mortality by year from 72 to 96, 97 to 2010, and 2011 to 2020. The primary symbology here is the graduated colors. I use the pushpin tool, and I use yellow, blue, and red for the 3 periods. I use the year as the field. Normalization was none. The method was natural breakdowns, and the classes are the three classes. The color scheme was manually, and the other map that I created was for mortality by cause, and that one I separated on all cause and mortality vehicular trauma. I used the symbology single symbol, and I used the S3 pin too. And the Sahara sand was used for the all cause layer, and the poinsettia red was used for mortality vehicular trauma. These maps were created with the human geography base map. For this I created a Florida Panther habitat gap and a habitat suitability model. The Florida Panthers gap map, the data came from the U.S. Geology Survey Agency, and the gap means a gap analysis project. The gap habitat maps represent suitable areas for breeding, resting, and hunting. And the habitat gap is not always occupied due to population changes and interaction among other species. So the map in the right, you can see that the brown area is what the panthers should or could be inhabiting. And during the model, I can show that I'm trying to show that not all areas are suitable for the panther. So for this model, I use also the Florida Panther habitat gap and the roads were reclassified, and I use weights of 0.5 gap habitat as well as 0.5 for the roads. And for the map, I use the primary symbology classify and the methods natural breakdowns, and there were 4 classes for this. So the results for the Florida Panther telemetry, the first layer from 1981 to 2020, you can see the readings go north from Kissimmee, the Osceola County, going all the way down to Florida City, Miami-Dade County. The second, these are the yellow pins. And the second reading, 2011 to 2020, this is the blue heat map, and all the recordings are south of this Caloosahatchee River. And this is a big problem because in the last 10 years, we have not seen that many panthers move away from this area. So the transient male panthers have been seen north of the Caloosahatchee River, but not that many females Actually, no females have been recorded since 1970s. The Florida panther require large areas for reproduction and social needs, and the Florida female panthers require home range usually between 70 and 200 square miles, and males require about 250 square miles. And looking at the map, it's very hard to see that they are actually covering this amount of area. So the panthers are more active at dusk and dawn. The first result for the Florida panther mortality, this is for Florida panther mortality over the years. Not all deaths reported here are from track panthers. That's why we see even counts from 2011 to 2020, a little bit north of the Caloosahatchee River. The Florida panther mortality from 1972 to 2004, we had about 70 deaths. But after that, 2004, they began to increase, the counts began to increase rapidly with 2 years that are the peak, 2015 with 44 deaths and 2016 with about 43 deaths. The decrease in mortality in 2020, it was mostly because of the COVID-19 pandemic where less people travel to that area. The other map is showing the cost, mortality costs, count by cost. And then you see the graph on the bottom, you can see that the vehicular related incidents were the main cause for death with 373. There's an increase of 303 deaths reported due to vehicular mortality since 2004. And the number of deaths have increased about 5 times more since 2004. The map shows that the red pins are the mortality by vehicular trauma, and the yellow are for all counts. And the result for the Panther model, Florida Panther survivability model, survivability surface was based on the distance to roads, and there was it was classified in 4. Number 1 is the most suitable, which is in green. This is over 2,000 meters away from the roads. 2, suitable. 3, less suitable, and the 4 is the least suitable in red. These are from 0 to 500 meters. If you look at the map, you see that some of the biggest areas here that are in green and yellow are around the Big Cypress National Preserve and the Kissimmee Prairie Preserve State Park. But the model shows that the gap habitat map is only suitable in small packets or areas. The distance between the suitable areas are well dispersed. So in conclusion, habitat loss due to human population increase and changes in land use are restricting the movement of the Florida panther. Even with a slow recovery, it will not be enough to sustain future panther population, and the road will continue to be a major risk for panthers, increasing their habitat fragmentation. The Caloosahatchee River is a major barrier as well for current Florida panthers, and the future success will depend on crossing this landmark. So to go back to the question, it is my opinion that the current habitat range is insufficient to sustain Florida panther population long term, and the reintroduction to other suitable areas are critical for their survival. And I wanted to add to this presentation the Florida Wildlife Corridor that was approved in 2021 in July. And this is what they're trying to do, is to connect about 18 million acres of land. And this land is composed of protected land, which is about 10 million, and 8 million for unprotected lands. The corridor ranges from the Florida County in the north and go all the way south to Everglades National Park. The corridor is going to provide essential habitat connectivity for numerous species that have suffered through habitat loss and fragmentation. So I think that this will be a great opportunity for the panther to continue with their revival and to move a little bit north. And that's the end.